Okay. Hey, I am live. It's Jonathan, and I'm on both Instagram and YouTube. I'm cutting off the top of my head. Not like in Rambo, cutting the top of this hair over here. This It has been several months since I have been making any announcements on politics, mostly because the June 7th write-in candidacy um, run for either governor or congressman uh, did not go as planned, and the results of that write-in candidacy or on the ballot candidacy for the rest of the candidates, uh, the results weren't as expected, and so I wasn't expecting to enter this next November 7th, 2022 election, whichever open roles and positions there are in local government. And I actually wanted to spend more time on the startup and the personal development and arts and humanities career and technology. However, uh, there is a continued push, either internally or from what forces there are in the universe, to see if any of these runs for local office. And uh, a lot of the time, you don't choose that role, the role chooses you. And um, the appropriate role meant for you will be will open up, well, the doors will open themselves up, let's say that. So I was actually catching up in a lot of in several a lot that's one of my crutches, several uh, political topics on YouTube and various other sites and social media such as Twitter, and saw announcements by actually quite commendable candidates such as Beto O'Rourke, and I do follow um, other uh, uh, speakers and politicians, both on the left and the right. So I did take notice of Beto O'Rourke because for some time the MAGA Republicans have definitely um, had a voice, which is to be respected, and to be everyone has the right to be heard. Every opinion is valid. Every um, position is valid. And so I took notice of Beto O'Rourke because he is running in Texas as a Democrat, and is an opposing voice in that state and area. So I was thinking, since I was previously running for congressman, uh, and even if governor was at all within a long shot in California, then hey, um, if I didn't get those positions, that's okay. There's always going to be another opportunity. I was thinking that if there is a city council or school board within the November 7th or November 8th election, then that is another goal to strive for. So actually, I wanted to go over the topics that I took notice that Mr. Beto was going over, and um, um, for um, for the narrative, or whether it's the silent majority or a minority voice, everyone gets to be heard. So one of the topics that, or so, we're going to go through this entire list of topics that I took notice of and wanted to give my own opinion, and everyone knows that opinions can be uh, either um, accepted or rejected or what have you. So that's it's going to be some exciting territory for the novice and um, the new guy. So first of all, um, being able to vote during the workday, because often or always the November 8th election is on a Tuesday in November, and most of the working population either has to uh, do their mail-in ballots or wake up much earlier than their workday before 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. or even after work to at many times rush through their ballots. And um, it could be well, it's good to do the research beforehand and to um, properly update oneself about what a particular candidate um, stands for and what their platform and policies are. So, um, being offered by an employer, either in the public or the private sector, to take the day off of work to vote, or even a half day, if uh, if the if the employee uh, wishes to continue to get paid for the day, then either taking a day off or a half day, so that um, employees, and both employees and employers, have their voices heard as voters and to um, place in their ballots, either mail in or in person, in whichever precinct that they are in. So, one of the next questions presented is, why are you running platform? What are the platform and the policies? And my personal position on that was, well, California is one of the one of the in many ways is one of the greatest states. It has its upsides and it has its downsides. California, if you think about California, from whether it was the gold rush in the 1800s, 1849, or whether it is the booming tech sector in which the computer chip and semiconductor industry, both Microsoft and Apple and other semiconductor companies, as well as the entertainment industry in Los Angeles and in Hollywood, which does supply most of the country and even the world its entertainment and the American culture. Upsides and downsides to that, because we can get into the state of Los Angeles later. Um, but I was thinking that little is it known that California is actually known for um, most of its economy is agriculture and technology. So if you go out into the fields of Gilroy and in the Central Valley, in Gilroy you have garlic. Uh, that's the only one I know. Garlic for all you vampires out there, as well as what other crops? I don't actually. I should have looked into that. Um, as well as both agriculture and technology. Um, Anyone running for a local office or local government role in California should want to keep California both competitive, competent, as well as uh, compassionate. So that's one of the things. What that's those are the bullet points that I'd like to address, as well as the ongoing issue of homelessness in California that has been going on for quite some time in the major cities such as Berkeley, San Jose, San Francisco, Los Angeles. Virtually, and that's not exclusive to California, because most large cities in the country or metropolitans have to deal with a homeless population. So, um, and then going into that and breaking that down into several um, several smaller problems to address, such as is it a mental health issue or is it a drug abuse issue? And then even having, um, a public libraries in closer and job training centers, as well as rehab centers closer in proximity to these shelters, so that those that find themselves in rough times, they have immediate access. They have within walking distance from the homeless shelter to the public library, where they can gain some computer skills, read on subjects about how to update their skills for the workforce, as well as job training excuse me, and as well as any rehab centers that could address their drug abuse issues, whichever substance it is that they've abused. And let's see, disability rights for families and individuals that have members within their families that have disabilities. Do they have access to counseling, or assisted living, or special education within our public school system, and as well as not just mental disabilities, but physical disabilities. Are these public places, such as the library, these shelters, do they have accommodations for those that have to travel about in wheelchairs, or rely on shuttles to get from one place to the other? So that is on that topic. Okay, let's see. So we covered day off to vote, or half day, for those that want to continue to work for their daily to work towards their paying their bills. Disabilities. Let's see. As was being said, California has succeeded in many areas and has been falling behind in others. We covered the homelessness and drug issue, the public libraries, adults education, rehab centers within closer proximity to homeless shelters or soup kitchens, and having incentives for volunteers from both the public and the private industry sectors, whichever field that it is that they work in, whether it's in the whether it's in teaching, whether it's in technology, whether it's in they do construction type work, if they would like to volunteer at these rehab centers, these libraries and adult education centers, to pass on or mentor in some kind of skill where those in need that have fallen on hard times through their drug addiction or simply not having enough skills to back up their wage, then being able to pass on some kind of skill so that uh, those that are in the most vulnerable parts of our society aren't left behind. So to reiterate, some kind of tax deduction or subsidy on both food, on both groceries and shelter for those that volunteer their time with those that are recovering or seeking work and employment. Uh, let's see. Seeing that so many families in not just California, yet other states in the union having to work 2 to 3 jobs to make ends meet, to pay the bills. Uh, why don't we have more um, opportunities in the public education system, or if if the individual has gone through private education or homeschooling, uh, why don't we have more opportunities in the education system to teach about basic level entrepreneurial skills, or basic skills such as when I was when I was in grade school, we learned how to sell candy bars. Um, we learned how to fundraise through those candy bars and what have you, or even doing yard work for the neighborhood as a uh, home business for the youngsters. And in a, on that same train of thought, for the families and couples that have to work 2 to 3 jobs, why don't we have more after school and extracurricular activities to keep our students that come from working families access to after school programs in uh, technology, recreation, uh, and continuing to encourage the arts and music, um, so that all of our uh, all of the children have access to an outlet, so that there is less there are less negative ways to vent frustrations about homes that have working families, um, and learning how to deal with negative emotions and turning them into positive, rerouting those negative feelings towards positive outcomes. The minimum wage right now in California, $15 an hour. 15 could be more than that. 15.50, 15.60. We could ease off on raising the minimum wage because of inflation and higher costs of gasoline, groceries, and housing. Uh, and why not encourage for being able to make those minimum wages justified? Uh, Justified. Why don't we have higher pay for more skills? Higher pay for more skills, not just okay. So and the other argument behind that is the equal pay for equal work. Okay, we could go with that too. We could go with that uh, notion. Um, I'm going to say higher pay for more skills. And California being very uh, a tech centric uh, work environment and state, uh, it would be great to continue to encourage more uh, work diversity, because we have other states in the country that have a more diversified workforce. I'm not talking about ethnicity, and which is also could be could be a good approach to take for, especially for minorities or majority populations. Uh, for a tech centric workforce, being able to create more diversified work, so that it doesn't have to be so monopolized here in California, that would be a great plus as well. The MAGA Republicans, uh, as we have seen between the years of 2016 and 2020, for good reason, very against abortion, and speaking for the abortion ban, which was occupied by nearly a majority vote in the House. And there needs to be an opposing voice for that, because, well, hey, most of us have been born already. However, in general, we want to have our students in K through 12 learning about sex education, learning about prevention, both abstinence and prevention, and making smart choices if they so choose to have protected sex before marriage, which their parents would most likely disagree with. In addition to the opposing voice, hey, what about in the instances of rape? What about in the instances of incest? What about the mothers that result to punching themselves in the abdomen, or using coat hangers to do the um, unrecommended deed? So, in general, discouraged activity to do. However, there has to be some kind of outlet, so that our very valued women in the workforce and in their family lives, or their own personal sex lives, should they so choose, then there has to be sex education in the grade schools or secondary schools, about how to protect themselves, protect their partners, how to prevention, especially prevention. And on the topic of LGBT, the silent majority, or the MAGA Republicans, will say that the Democrats have an agenda to introduce all of these, such as drag in grade school, and LGBT protections, and okay, we don't have to go through those extremes on either end. How about having a section in sex education about LGBT, um, I don't know how to lifestyle, and that whether that uh, decision in their life is either nature or nurture, and having a more modern approach to how this uh, uh, orientation is comes about, and that's okay. We can respect each other, and whether or not that the opposing side believes in gay marriage, at least have the civil union to be uh, an option for those that have that orientation and would like to have the same tax benefits, which is actually the biggest um, topic about any kind of dual partner marriage or union, which is the tax benefits. How do we invest in public education and make sure that our teachers and counselors are uh, being valued for their work, not just pay, being valued for their work? Because often it is a very thankless job. It could be a very thankless job because in the K through 12 system or the higher education system, uh, these jobs do pay well enough. However, teachers have to work two jobs, sometimes three jobs. Sometimes, a lot of the time, many times I've experienced. I have a friend that is a teacher as well, having to request students to bring in supplies such as computer paper, writing paper, notebooks, and pencils and pens, and the the budget that the schools supply our teachers with. That it it isn't enough to run by, and making sure that those that are in the education system are doing it because they're passionate about it, and that's a very big topic. Is our youth and the next generations have to be taught by teachers that are passionate about their work, or at least have an outlet for their passion to incorporate with their teaching work, so that students can continue to be um, curious, to be engaged, to be open-minded, as well as being some of the best teachers that I've had were very entertaining, were very funny. So finding ways to incorporate um, improv classes, humor for our teachers, public school teachers, to making math fun again, because oftentimes seeing that our our students going into um, the workforce or continued education uh, don't like math or arithmetic, and a lot of these times we can't carry our skills in. A lot of the time we can't carry our skills into basic accounting. Training our teachers so that they can recognize the red flags and warning signs of maltreatment at home, uh, warning signs about abuse and neglect, or other uh, other uh, uh, signs that need to be addressed. Sending students to um, guidance counselors, or finding role models for the parents that are um, often very busy with work. Continued role models, if it isn't the teacher uh, herself or himself. Expanding Medicaid, Medi-Cal, uh, Medicare. Not a topic of my, excuse me, my expertise. the health field is the health industry is could be very convoluted. Medicaid. Um, typically should be covered by a student or a family's breadwinner, or those working for an employer. However, for those with disabilities and those that are seniors, that continue to age and lose their ability to work at the same capacity as they did in their younger years, there needs to be some kind of safety net for our seniors and those with disabilities. And most of all, continuing to treat our counterparts, those that we disagree with both dignity and respect. Let's see, I have gun ownership, very big topic, because those that we have on the left say that we need to have more barriers for gun ownership because of the things that can go wrong because of whether it's assailants, criminals, or even mass shooters. And then those on the right that say that, hey, we need to have our citizens to have some kind of home intrusion protection, whether it's a handgun at home, and what is the need for an AR-15 or an AK for a suburban setting, unless living out in the rural areas, or if the individual isn't already in the military or in Coast Guard, Navy, militia. The age requirement for owning a gun is 18 years old. The age requirement for voting is 18 years old. And in psychology, those that study psychology understand that the brain and the prefrontal cortex, which is the executive function of the brain, doesn't fully develop until 25 years of age, because those in their late teen years or early 20s can make and do make poor decisions about their own lives, or what it is that they partake in through their vices and lifestyle and choice of higher learning or not. So hey, raising the gun ownership age to 21 instead of 18, that would be a reasonable compromise, especially when we consider that 25 years of age is when the brain begins to crystallize in its development. And we aim to have a healthy democracy, voting rights for not just the able, but for those that are disabled as well. on drugs and drug abuse, um, continuing to punish those that seek to use or consume marijuana, which is falsely thought of as a gateway drug. We don't have to go as far as legalizing it. How about decriminalizing it and having some kind of legal dosage or legal limit to consume or to carry, so that in instances where those that are experimenting recreationally don't have to be incarcerated for a nonviolent crime for possessing or consuming a uh, nearly harmless drug. School choice should be up to the parents. School choice in the public education system or alternatives. It really is up to the parents for deciding. It should be. It goes back to vouchers, school choice vouchers, if I remember that correctly. As a society and as parents and as school children, we want the best opportunity for every student out there, both planned and unplanned, and seeking the most appropriate fit and competent schools for our students is a continued effort. And again, understanding that the public education system could be very well a thankless job for many of the hardworking teachers out there, dedicating so much of their time and energy into educating the future of our nation. Pay the educators more, and pay them based on their results, not just for passing grades, but for students that demonstrate that they are learning and that they're finding good jobs, contributing to their communities. And as President John F. Kennedy said, think not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. So anyway, that is just about it for me. I've gone over homelessness, gun violence, sex education, the strengths and weaknesses, but hopefully more of the strengths of California, and as well as the education system for our youth, and open roles in local government, whether it was the primary election in June or this next upcoming election in November. Okay, so I'm over and out. Thank you for tuning in, and hope you enjoyed this live stream.